Hi, and welcome to the Diablo Podcast. Your home for Diablo tryhards, Diablo diehards, hardcore and casual alike. I am your host, Xanth. And, I am joined today by my lovely co-host, Neinball.
Oh, hi. And my lovely co host, Duriel. Reposition him there. There we
Duriel
go.
Bag.
Yeah.
And also, Nerdwards is here. Nerdwards!
Hola. Hi, everybody.
And we are brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an ever-growing Diablo community, an expansive wiki, pretty active Diablo clan. Feel free to send a request. I'll click accept when I log in, uh, as well as a bunch of articles, information, and all your daily Diablo news right at your fingertips. Courtesy of Gazarek. We gave him a shout out last time, but he still deserves it. That dude is. Uh, I don't know where he finds the time to do all that typing, guys. He is just pumping it out. If you next time there's a campfire chat, if you're not going to Pure Diablo, uh, just give it a visit as it's going, because he is pumping out a awesome live cap of what is going on, um, giving us some in-depth breakdown. So give it a look, guys. I think it's pretty great. And then come back and listen to the podcast several days later, where we will eventually talk about things. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about a lot of stuff. It is Xirmas, an imaginary holiday that I've invented for this occasion of the Abattoir of Zir. But before we go into the Abattoir of Zir, before we talk about the campfire, before we talk about itemization in general, guys, how's your season going?
Good. Been patiently waiting for Abattoir, obviously. I think that a lot of us kind of, if you already had your glyph levels and your season done, then, it was kind of just holding tight, waiting for Abattoir to drop. And if you didn't, then you were kind of just getting ready for Abattoir, I feel like, so for most of us. But no, it's going well. Still playing the Sork. I've still got the Druid. I haven't played them as much. I've been kind of fine-tuning the Sork a lot and just diving into the Druid here and there. Really excited for Abattoir. I've played a little bit of it so far, and I'm having a good time with it. But yeah, season's still very good. I've been in and out playing a lot of other stuff as well too. But I feel like this week and next week I'll probably be hitting Abattoir pretty hard.
Pretty sure I saw you playing WoW, and we're not going
Yes,
to talk about it.
yep.
Season of Discovery.
No, hell no. I won't be caught dead playing Classic. No, I can't. No. For me, I evolved past old school WoW in 2006, so I'm good at this point. Yeah, no, just
So you can be an elitist in 2 games. I got you.
the problem was I was grinding Diablo, and my entire group of friends resubbed to retail, and we're just doing Mythic Pluses and dungeons and PvP and whatever else. And so I just got roped into that. I bought the expansion, got 30 days of free game time, and went, why not? But now Abattoir is live, so I'm back.
Well, welcome back. Nineball, how's your season?
Pretty good so far. On a previous episode, I had mentioned, about how because of playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar, I was familiar with the term abattoir, and well, that army just got its update this past weekend, so I've been super excited about getting to play some Flesh Eater Courts with the new rules and stuff like that. I know that's not technically Diablo, but between that and some other stuff at work, I've been pretty busy. I haven't played all that much since our last podcast. Um, Besides, of course, like today, going through trying to put some fine tuning on my builds, because going through and trying to do a suboptimal build, that first level of the abattoir definitely hurts, and so changing things around, getting some of my secondary glyphs leveled up and stuff like that in order to hopefully dive into it a bit this weekend.
Well, that's good. So we talked about it last time, and I am happy to report. I didn't die. I made it to 100, boys. Did it. Hardcore, level 100 druid. Shortly after that podcast had aired, I did manage to hit that milestone. Um, yeah, it feels kind of weird, guys. I have not died yet this season. Now, Abattoir will change that, but it feels wrong. feels wrong to have not died. In fact, like I then made another character. I don't know if you guys have tried this. Like, apparently, Hammer of the Ancients and Barbarian is just like really good. Have you seen this yet? I feel like I'm on the cusp of something good. Like basically, you just like use Hammer of the Ancients and you kill everything. Um,
I've
I don't
heard
know what to
rumors,
call it.
like
I don't know
whispers.
what to call it. Um, no, I decided to become a meta slave and try out the Hoda Barb and wow, gentlemen, it's level 70 and I it feels pretty good. It is pretty fun. I don't hate it. I wish it was still a druid, but it feels good. It feels very
Uh,
good. And
wi-
that character also not dead.
Wishing it was a
Nice.
druid is what the transmogs are for.
Yeah, I suppose I'll have to dip into the shop to hide my shame, I guess. But yeah, so far this season has I think, and we were talking a little bit pre-show. I keep seeing more and more builds that I want to go and play. Like I said before, level 70 on this Hoda Barb, and it is very fun. But then, Echo Hack posted a build for Necromancer, and that's a class in the past since release haven't dipped my toe into that much, and I was really intrigued by that. I want to go play that. No, I want to maybe make one of those fancy lightning sorcerers, and I want to do so much more, and I'm just not going to have enough time. And I feel like that's a very good place to be in. It's kind of nice to be sitting here in December with about a little over a month to go in this season and still have so many things I want to do. Whereas typically in a seasonal game, at this point, even we get the Abattoir, but you trail off a bit, and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
I can pick something else up. I haven't really felt that need yet, even having hit 100. Uh, Immediately started up on a Barbarian, and now I want to do it on a Necro. I'm okay with that. Now, it's not to say there's not points of friction. We'll probably get to that later. There are still a lot of things that need to change, but I'm still enjoying my time. And I think this season we've talked about it a few times already. Has been it's been very nice, and I'm very much enjoying it and looking forward to what is to come. Now, what we got today, and again, I think this is funny because this is oh sorry, Leviathan. This is December 5th. This is the day of Zirmus. We do get the Abattoir today. And the general reaction has been mixed. Now, full disclosure, while I might be a level 100 hardcore, I am not that great. I am not in to the Abattoir yet. So I have no experience. But what I do have is a little bit of knowledge, which is a dangerous thing. I've seen some posts and I've been gleaning reactions, kind of gearing up for this podcast. Like, what are people saying about it? Knowing that you two are going to do the heavy lifting, you've got the experience. But one of the common criticisms that I've seen so far has been in reaction to some one-shot mechanics that are making themselves present in the bossing at the end. And the spikes of difficulty, and that trash doesn't seem to be that bad, but then you get to the end, and that's where everything will spike upward. And in tandem with that is the lack of loot. That while not getting loot during it is logical, what you do get at the end doesn't seem to justify the time period. So hopefully some things that you guys can address. But the community having a little bit of little reservation, a little trepidation towards the new content. Nerdwords, what do you think about it?
I mean, I'm like all in. Like I'm obsessed. This is exactly what I wanted personally. So for me, I mean it's basically greater rifts in this game. I mean there's no I ain't got to worry about drifting shade or barrier breakers or like everything being poison enchanted. The affix system doesn't exist for the dungeon, which is great. I love that so much because I hate those a lot. I'm on record, I think, at least once or twice saying that.
Just a
um,
couple times.
just a couple times. And then go figure that everyone wants hard content but doesn't like it being too hard. That doesn't shock me either. It is hard. I just literally, as we were getting ready for the podcast, finished Abattoir level 2. Definitely died like 2 or 3 times in level 2. Level 1 I got through pretty okay, but there's some moments that were sketchy. But it's the same thing you see in Greater Rifts and Diablo 3 and a lot of higher content. The affixes start to ramp up and get up there, specifically like Fire Enchanted and any on-death explosions, like the big like maggot dudes when they blow up and turn into spiders and whatever else. They hurt real bad. The Fire Enchanted like fire like lines that go out, and then when they explode, obviously that's going to be a one shot and kill you. And that makes it kind of tough when you're playing a melee sorcerer, because that kind of goes on a lot. So you basically just dive out, wait till you have an immunity, and then dive in. But yeah, it's definitely challenging for sure. I think my favorite part about it is that as you go up in difficulty, it seems like the damage doesn't scale, the health of the monsters scale. So like it's already one-shotting you. There's no need for it to one-shot you more. So they just have ramped up the health of the monsters. So they have to live longer, so you have to live longer, basically. Which puts an emphasis on the defensive, capabilities of your character as well too, which I think is interesting and makes the itemization a little more interesting, even if the affixes still have some issues, in that sense. But I'm so far, mind you, I've played maybe 2 hours of it. I'm really excited about it. I'm super. This is exactly what I wanted. I want Nightmare Sigils to just be this. I want sigils to flip and be something else if they want to do that. But if this was if I could do a Nightmare Sigil 50 like this, I would. Oh my god, it would be exactly what I've always wanted. So, big fan.
Yeah, some of the comments that I've seen is exactly as you're going through and saying is that the damage does scale up like a little bit, but not a lot. It's mostly like the monster health, and as you get to, I guess, the higher end, because I've really only seen people talk about pushing like 10. I haven't been paying as much of attention, so I don't know if anyone has gotten further than that. But I think I think you both had kind of mentioned that it's like the Bloodseekers are the real challenge once you start getting a little bit further into it. And because there's no damage from the mobs, then you get to the Bloodseeker, and then all of a sudden, almost everything that they do is like a one shot or obscene damage. And if one of them spawns as vampiric, that's it. Runs over because you time out. They'll heal themselves so quickly. So some of the complaints I've seen at the higher end of things. That's obviously not my experience. I've tried 2. I died both times. I haven't gotten there yet. I look forward to going through and seeing how far that I can get with it in my little jank shadow build. Thank you, Macro. I'm playing the Exodia Necro. So
I think the other part of the Abattoir that is quickly forgotten in its release and the build up to it is this isn't meant to be permanent yet, right? This is hey, we're gonna run this for 6 weeks. Let's see what it does. Let's see how you like it. And this strikes me as something that they're going to get a lot of feedback on, as it's already starting to roll in. And maybe we get a different iteration. Maybe not season 3 like immediately, but maybe we see a different version of this come in around the same point of season 3 of hey, no, it's back, but this time it does this and this and this, right? Um, it feels like we've got 6 weeks to really try it. You don't have to do it, right? You can still get all the great gear that you want from Duriel. You can still go and do Uberlith. You don't have to be present in the Abattoir. But if you don't have anything else going on and you want to mess with this cool new glyph and try out some new builds and see how far you could go, yeah, give it a shot. And I think they're listening to the feedback, right? At least that's what I would assume. So let's see what it does.
Everything else that we've seen with season 2 is pretty much that yes, they are indeed listening to feedback. So once it does come back in some sort of evergreen fashion, I'm sure a lot of those rough edges will probably be rounded out a little bit.
Yeah, I think I think feedback is good, right? I think that they definitely need feedback, but if you're upset at its existence and thinking that like this isn't the season, right? The season is the season of blood. We got all the different elements there. This is just an add-on, something that nobody was really even expecting to begin with. So I guess like my approach with the abattoir is more like that I'm just treating it as a one-off. It's a nice thing to try, and if it turns into something else, great. If it doesn't come back, hey, that's fine too, but we know they can do something. And I guess maybe that's just low expectations, but I don't know. I'm totally fine with there being hard content I don't do. Uh, it doesn't seem to be too prohibitive. But let's see where we are in a couple of days. Let's see where we are when people are pushing this glyph to higher levels. Let's see where we are when people are going past 10 to 20 to, as we have heard from the developers, they don't think anybody can finish it. Woody,
Right.
even when this was first announced, said he didn't think he could finish it.
I believe that the developers specifically said that their expectations in order for people to get past level 25 does involve having to go through and max out the new glyph. Like that glyph is just like that powerful,
Yeah.
that actually pushing this type of content is almost entirely revolved around how high of a level can you get that glyph to.
So let's see what happens. Now, in tandem, it would be a little disingenuous not to mention that this patch did cause a few issues. We get a new event, but hey, everybody's going to be starting a few steps behind where they thought as their glyphs took a step. So the general report, 1 to 2 levels lost off of most
Mhm.
glyphs for most players. I haven't logged in yet, so I don't know how badly I was hit, and I think it actually was patched at the moment.
Yeah, I think by the
But
time that you log in, it's actually already been fixed. So you should have your
right.
glyphs at the proper level when you go through and get
So
in. And even
Blizzard,
though
I just want you to know mine were already level 21, each and every one, and I expect them to be at that level. If they're
Nice.
not, I will contact customer service because I just feel that's fair. Because I always level all my glyphs all the way right away. That's the first thing I
Nice.
do.
Nice.
totally, I believe
All
you.
characters.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got no reason to lie.
I
Um,
I think by the time that this podcast actually goes live, it will also be fixed for the console players too.
correct. It is a small hiccup. It's one of those things I think, unfortunately leaves a bad taste in players' mouths from time to
Hmm.
time. You're excited for something, and then yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, like prepping yourself for Abattoir. And one of the big things for preparation was leveling your glyphs, which I know Nerdwards loves to do because he has mentioned time and time again his affinity for Nightmare Dungeons, how he got it. I think was the last time you were like, if I could live in a Nightmare Dungeon all day,
Yeah,
that's what I would do every
definitely,
single day.
for sure. Yeah.
Um, so to log in and to see that your preparation was kind of in vain, um, even just for a little bit, it'd be a little frustrating, and obviously seeing it get smoothed out is good, but yeah, I can see where that will be. It doesn't help the game's reputation from time to time. Where I think I think right now Diablo is moving in a good direction. Unfortunately, it's still always going to be kind of cloaked in the meme format of like D4 bad, right? Um, and like sometimes there's just those little things that add up to people piling on. This is just one of those little things that just gets tossed in a pile for somebody to make reference to. Um,
Error
and that,
37.
it sucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it's not to say that you know people are human. They make mistakes. Doesn't make the game bad. But for these outlookers who only come by for the major updates, yeah, it can leave a sour taste in their mouth. Um, so we move forward now. And moving forward, uh, out with the bad and in with the good, we did have a campfire chat, and speaking of chats, I actually got to have a real chat in person with Nerdwords. We saw each other in
Oh yeah,
person, and
we did do
we
that.
talked about the campfire chat.
We did.
We we were talking in real life, like real humans, in the same place. And much like a
Weird.
podcast, it was running late. I was like, oh crap, I have to go. And it's really easy to get sucked in. So, but we were talking about the most recent campfire chat, so we've hit on a few parts of it already, right? We've talked a little bit about the abattoir, and we've got our hands on it. There's not as much to talk about anymore, though. I will say I really enjoyed watching. There's been the criticism for Diablo developers of like, oh, they don't play their own game. Like, hey, no, guess what? We got a guy in the back. He's going to narrate, and we're going to run you through Abattoir. That was really cool, and I hope they do stuff like that more frequently. Um, like it was a nicer dynamic to the campfire of like, hey, we're gonna chat. Also, here's some gameplay, and it's not just stock footage. We're gonna, kind of like, you know, um, we're gonna chat over this and like that. But anyways, so we got that, and we got some more conversation around Diablo. But before we go into the intricacies, Nerdwords, you had made mention when we were talking in person your thoughts around the campfire in general. What was that big takeaway that you had?
I mean, to me, it was. I thought it was the best campfire chat that we've seen so far. I think all of them have been engaging in their own way, and there's no doubt that the amount of transparency and just dialogue that they encourage by having those in general has been awesome the whole way through. Right? Some of them have been less good, some of them have been a little bit better. I'm like just apparently a big fangirl for Adam Jackson. Like I just think that dude when he's on, he's on. I don't know if it's just like his passion or the way he talks about the game, but like I just feel I've never met the man. We've never had a conversation, but I feel like we click. I really enjoy the way he talks about the game. And he wasn't in this chat, right? It was JoJo and Adam, kind of the original trio. But man, you're right. It felt it. Obviously, they play their own game, but there were so many moments in this where I was like, wow, they really played. Like there was a moment when they were talking about they were talking about like during the Q&A, they were talking about like someone asked a question about they like the Bloodseekers and are there plans to do more surprise content like that, like a Butcher style encounter where you just get attacked by something. And they said they liked the idea and they were looking at it, and they'd even the question had brought up like, have you thought about adding it to like world bosses, right, where like you'll get attacked by stuff during world bosses. And that, like, I watched Joe get ADD, and that was awesome, Joe Shelley, because he went, oh, speaking of which, I was fighting Avarice, and Goblin spawned when you fight Avarice, and we killed Goblin, and I got 1 rawhide and 300 gold. That's not okay. We're fixing that. And I went, that is what I'm talking about. That's a moment where you're like, okay, I've been there, I've seen that, and I've had the same reaction. So to hear that from Joe was like, that's awesome. Now, obviously, we know they play the game, but to hear it in real time, it felt like you were hanging in Discord and hearing one of your friends bitch about something in the game. It was like, okay, cool, he sees it too. It felt real, it felt genuine, and I thought this whole campfire chat was the most like loose of all of them. I felt like they were very fluid and candid and just had really good takeaways, and they announced a bunch of stuff that I love, right? Better glyph XP for stuff, and Abattoir, they gave more detail on it, which basically told me it was going to be Greater Rifts, right? So, I mean, it's literally the same thing as Greater Rifts, which is all I've wanted in Diablo 4, and obviously I'm a fan of that. Yeah, it was just, I thought it was the best one so far, for sure, 100%.
There was also a costume change midway through.
There was.
Not enough people are pointing that out. As we talk about genuine moments, I like that. I like that they were like, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to do that when they weren't looking at us."
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. Here's our t-shirts, and I would like that t-shirt.
I want that t-shirt too. Damage on Tuesdays. Cool.
Yeah.
So Blizzard open up the shop. It reminded me a little bit of like the Whimsyshire Diablo 3 t-shirt that they all had.
Which was similar. It started off as just a dev shirt, but the community reacted to it so much that about a year, I think it took about a year, and they finally put it to sale in the shop.
Yep.
That you could buy one of the Whimsyshire shirts. But the Damage on Tuesdays, I think, is definitely one that they, production, if you're listening, you need to get on that. Push that one forward.
Yeah. I'd buy it.
Yeah, I'd wear that. Yeah, let's let's make that happen. I'm not going to do it, but people of Trinidad and Tobago might rise up and be able to speak to why we need that. Okay, so costume changes aside, I think the we've already gotten into most of what we've seen. I granted there's Midwinter Blight to talk about. I guess let's do that first. Let's save itemization for last. Let's talk Midwinter Blight. So we really start the campfire with Midwinter Blight. Right? We are getting Midwinter in just a few weeks. Here we are on the eve of Saint Nicholas, which is Neinball. Are you familiar with Saint Nick?
Saint Nick?
Not like Christmas Saint Nick, but like you get a gift on December 6th Saint Nick.
No.
Oh my goodness. Nerwards?
Yeah, that's if you couldn't tell by the wrinkles on my forehead, no, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
And you live in Wisconsin. Okay.
I mean, technically, I don't leave my house ever, and I don't know anyone here besides people that I work with or for. So I don't know if that counts as living here. I'm still spiritually elsewhere.
Okay.
And in my computer, literally elsewhere. So
yeah. Okay. So we're gonna dovetail a little bit here. This isn't Diablo. This is just general Midwestern holidays that I kind of just thought everybody did, but apparently no. So on December 5th, Saint Nick comes to your house and will deliver small presents into your stocking. Now it's like a Christmas Amos bouche, right? You're getting a little taste of Christmas 20 days beforehand. It is a Germanic tradition. Originally, I believe Saint Nick would leave like oranges and like maybe a little candy in shoes, and has spread outward into general gross commercialism that we all adhere to for most holidays. But you guys don't do that. Like you don't have. I mean, you don't have kids. But in other words, you do. But
legitimately,
as a kid,
never heard of that practice before.
No, never.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's like you say Germanic, and like I lived in the Netherlands, and I never even heard it there.
My stepdad's last name was Lotzenheiser, and very much like loved his heritage. We'll just put it that way. And yep, never heard of it. Never.
You got to be careful on where you have your pride in that.
Yes, he did. He need to be careful of that. He absolutely did.
And it was Alabama. So I'm just saying, like, I think your childhood was kind of happy by comparison, because I was getting early Christmas and then more Christmas.
I guess I didn't have to shovel snow out of the driveway.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I was a spoiled child, and my dad did that. Now I have to do that, so I guess it evens out. It evens out. Okay. And anybody listening at this point, we're gonna go back to Diablo, I promise. Sound off about this whole Saint Nick thing, because I feel like it can't just be me and the city of Milwaukee and the rest of Wisconsin. There's other people, right? So let us know if you're getting gifts for your children, or you got them as a child.
Dozens
for Saint Nick. And I'm not like making this up. It feels like, with both of you being like, I've never heard of it, that I am, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm not going to go into the pickle ornament because that's a different thing.
And we continue to stray further from Anarius's light.
I know. So this is a post-show thing. I'll talk about a pickle ornament at a different time. Okay. So Midwinter Blight. On Saint Nick Eve, we talk about Midwinter Blight. There are some stark parallels to Saint Nicholas, or to Christmas, however you want to put it. We're given an idea. I want to point out that they're introducing a bard. Future class, maybe?
Oh God, please no. Not in Diablo. I'm fine with bards, but that just would be weird in Diablo.
It very much does not work in the Diablo verse, but
yeah,
I want some options, is what I'm saying. So we're going to be introduced to a new character. We're going to see Fractured Peaks get into celebration mode. And in tandem with that, there's a whole range of cosmetics that we get to earn by going through. Um, Midwinter Blight thoughts that doesn't involve St. Nicholas or a pickle ornament, since I have clearly gone insane.
I mean,
I,
again, I said it on the last podcast, but I just they're continuing to flesh out the world. This isn't like a crazy amount of content or anything insane, but that's one of my favorite things about games like World of Warcraft is their seasonal events, right? Like I love the Hallows Eve event. I love I forget what the winter one's called again. Winter Veil, I think.
Wintervale.
We talked about that last time too. Yeah, they're just really cool. They're really cool little things. It's cool to see the regions change and kind of go in and out with the season. Little cosmetics for us to farm, most likely. Some fun little side quest story moments, most likely. Um, Overall, probably some really quick hit stuff, but I think it's really cool, and I'm excited not because this is like, oh my god, groundbreaking and amazing, but because they're going to add more of this. You're going to see other events, I'm sure. This won't be probably the only one for the whole of Diablo's lifespan.
Mhm.
So I'm just excited to see what else they do with it too.
Yeah, I mean, same. Nerdwords kind of hit the main point of it. I'm glad just to see the world fleshed out and to have, thematic holidays went through, put in. I talked about this last time about, it's just Kyovoshad, so it makes sense that it's like a regional like celebration. I won't say no to like a Santa cap transmog and like maybe a like a Krampus style bag, back transmog with like a limb sticking out of it or something. I think that would also be like a cool like little addition. Because I think I want to say it was there was a back, it was before Diablo 3 release, they had like some art of the barbarian with a Santa hat, because Blizzard used to do like the really big like Halloween and Christmas celebrations where they would have like custom art and everything like that. That would just be cool to see the barbarian with the Santa cap, just whirlwinding around actually in game for the first time after like that concept art came out 15 years ago or something. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am all for it. I think also just free cosmetics, right?
Yeah.
One of the criticisms of Diablo, and I think it's a fair criticism, is the price of cosmetics. If you can get something for free, go for it. The more of those you pile up, the more options you end up having. And I do want to point out, I don't know if you guys have ventured into the shop as of late. They, I think, for the first time, put out a good-looking druid set. It happened. I don't
Is
know
it
if you
the
saw it. It's
Anarius
got
one?
the no. It was like the one where it's all covered in ice. It's got like the moose horns and like
Oh.
there's like icicles all over it. It looks really cool. I almost thought about buying it, but then I was also like, I'm gonna be in a bear or wolf form. I'm not gonna do it. But I did. I was like, finally, here we are with a good looking set. Um, but that's just what they look like. The big part of this campfire chat was what those items actually. We've talked several times on this podcast about itemization, and we heard about it at BlizzCon, and that was exciting. That in the opener they talked and said itemization is something we're going to work on. Now we have a real idea of when that's going to happen. It's not season 3. I don't think any of us were surprised by that. But they seem to be pretty confident that it's going to be season 4. And in tandem with that, we know that they've been in talks with people in the Diablo community. Diablo partners we may know, maybe even love, maybe even
Is
look right at.
is one of the Diablo partners here in the room with us?
I think they are.
Um,
Um, Now, obviously, none of those conversations can be shared, but we can confirm they did happen.
yes, and unfortunately, that's about all that I can confirm is that the conversation took place, and I was there and got to listen to them, talk and spitball their ideas about itemization going forward. And yeah, Unfortunately, that's about
And
all I can contribute to this conversation.
and that's totally fine the way NDAs happen to be. Um, it's also, it's kind of like it's not your news to share, right? You could say you're a part of the conversation, but until anything's been decided, right?
Hmm.
It's for them. Um, just like there are certain things we don't talk about,
I
leaks and stuff like that, because it's not a place to share. Um, but it is cool,
hmm
one, to understand the reach of the podcast, because clearly it's big now. We're getting included in conversations. But also, I would argue, having worked, I say worked like this is a job, having interacted and hung out with you guys, and a lot of the other people who have that moniker, those are the people I want helping kind of guide the conversation. You know, like when Macro Bio Boy is breaking down all of the math to get things working, that's that's the kind of guy you kind of want behind some itemization to at least be like, hey, no, this doesn't work because of this, or this is what we would like because of X, Y, and Z. Um, and then you have like your super passionate fans. Um, so yeah, I think that's great. I think it's great that they're not also saying like, no, we'll just keep it in-house. We're going to roll something out like Diablo 3 did with Loot 2.0,
hmm
and then we'll fix it again in a couple months. Uh, this I just I like hearing it. Nerwards, your thoughts on that before we dig into the particulars of itemization?
I mean, well, one, I think timeline wise, it makes sense. Like, I think we all, I mean, we kind of called that when the game came out, right? There was a lot of problems, a lot of things, a lot of hiccups in the road, a lot of things to be celebrated, and that were awesome too. But we felt like the game would be probably more of what it's going to look like in about a year, right? In about season 4, I think is what we called exactly. So I'd love to see it. I honestly am surprised. I think that's a little sooner than I expected. I expected it to come with the expansion. I do anticipate there to be more with the expansion as well too. Whatever they do work on, whatever processes they make, I assume there'll be some pretty good changes, some quick changes that are easy to fix, and then probably some bigger, more sweeping changes in the expansion. But I have nothing to. I'm not a Diablo partner. I was not privy to any conversation. I'm just guessing there. That would be my hypothesis, but um, yeah, the Joes and the Adams that work on Diablo, because it feels like everyone that works on that game is either named Joe or Adam. Feels like the Joe and Adam squad of Diablo 4 is on the right track, man. They really are. We've had some ups and downs for sure. We had a couple patches that I thought were good, but just kind of didn't sit right with a lot of people's, feelings for sure. And there have been some issues, but man, the season 2's been great. The Abattoir, I'm a big fan of it. Hopefully, it turns to be, or it seems that people turn and enjoy it more. Um, but yeah, I think that we're in good hands. It's just I just want to see more. Um, Reducing the amount of affixes that can drop on items, getting rid of the useless ones, which they referenced themselves on the live stream, which was like, yeah, who gives a shit about shrine buff duration? More importantly, who gives a shit about an uber unique that gives you a random shrine buff? Not a sorceress, I promise you that. If I got that, I might split my desk. I'd be very sad. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they see, but obviously we have a lot of time to speculate.
And it was at this point in the conversation where it came out the damage on Tuesdays, as
Yeah.
the referencing of some of the things that they're going through to try and reduce.
Yeah, I I was sharing a little bit pre-stream before you came on Neinball, and I'm gonna loop you into this conversation as a level 100, you know, character haver that I am now. Um, I don't like to brag.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
Character haver, by the way.
What else would you call it?
I don't know.
And he's never going to log on to that character ever again, so that way he can continue to say that he has a level 100
Right.
druid.
Yep.
No, I wanted to die so that I could have it in the Hall of Heroes permanently. Um, I want to just take out character slots. So as a level 100 character haver, One of the things I
Enjoyer?
have noticed. Mm,
Level
See, I'm going
100
to be providing
character enjoyer?
criticism. Haver. I think I'm a haver.
Because again, as previously stated, he's not actually playing the character. He's not
Right.
enjoying it.
I just have it. Well, this is about my lack of enjoyment. So I think one of the big things, and we were talking about it pre-stream, was uh, there's a friction that happens at that level 100 where you're no longer gaining XP. And you find your build isn't just getting where it needs to be. And I want to make a shift. But to do that, I'm going to need, one of the old pieces of friction was paragons, right? It was super expensive to reset them. Uh, and it would take a lot of time. We couldn't do a complete reset, all those kind of things. And those problems have pretty much gone away. I don't think anybody's complaining about resetting a Paragon board anymore outside of click, 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 click. Um, that's the only thing that I can think of. But now the friction is in the items themselves. I have items geared towards this particular build, but the build I want to move towards, I might have some of the pieces, but they're not quite perfect. Or I have a good build, but my gear still requires certain things, and finding those upgrades is nebulous. There's no clear defined way for me to upgrade and make my character better that I can do like when I'm leveling. I know when I am leveling, every time I go into a nightmare dungeon, every time I go into go kill some vampires, I'm gonna move that bar no matter what. I could do 20 nightmare dungeons and not find a single item that's going to work for what I want to do. And there's where that friction it has started to form. And that can be frustrating. Like to be on the precipice of where I want to be and to not be finding the pieces I need and have no control of that. We don't have trade, right? Which used to be like, hey, at least I found something I can trade to get. And what really stands out to me, and it did get brought up in the campfire chat, uh, is the need for a crafting system. There needs to be a way that I can take the junk that I have found and turn it into something that doesn't have to be perfect, but then I can find a way to make better incrementally. Um, Thoughts on a crafting system? And the goal is not to spend all day speculating on what could happen, but it does feel like something kind of glaring. And again, now as a level 100 haver, I'm noticing.
I mean, I think expanding the crafting system would be a win. I don't think anyone would argue that wouldn't be a win. And I say expanding the crafting system because it doesn't. You technically don't craft items for real right now. But in my opinion, you find items and then you invest in those items, and that's kind of a sidebar to crafting. Kind of like in Diablo 2, you use cube recipes, but technically you're crafting, right? Like if you're doing a caster amulet, right? You're technically not creating it out of nothing. You're putting items together to make it, but it is crafting, right? Yeah, I don't think them expanding or making that more intuitive would be a bad thing. And in Diablo 3, while crafting never became the end game, it definitely filled a need, especially through the leveling process and the early end game once you hit 70. So finding it, if it could find a niche somewhere in there, I think that'd be cool. I don't think there's a world where we're going to see you crafting like best in slot end game gear or like super optimized gear, but hey, I'm for it though. I'd be interested to see what they have or what they're thinking of if they are doing something like that for sure. I don't think it'd be a problem. At the end of the day, it is a system in Diablo 4 that needs to probably be expanded a bit.
Yeah, I like your reference to Diablo 3 where it is really good. Like Guardians. Just going through and like
Fantastic.
crafting like a set of Guardians in D3, and that will help carry you through your first 1,000 Paragon levels easily, if not like a couple thousand before you really swap it out with something else. But yeah, it definitely is. The crafting is one of those things that in Diablo 3 helped filled a gap. There were builds and such that did rely on a crafted set specifically for like its end game. But a lot of the crafting you were using was refining. It was I finally found the Corpse Twister pauldrons that I needed, and so now I'm just going to dump a ton of mats into it until it is ancient, or primal
Yeah.
ancient, and that was where the majority of like the kind of the crafting was in Diablo 3, but it did have a nice stopgap measure of, okay, I'm 70, let me just craft sages, for my follower. Let me craft, so like let me run a couple of bounties so I get some stuff so I can go through and craft Asharas or Guardians or something like that to get me started at the end game. And that is definitely something, especially that we're seeing now with Abattoir, that we have a real like big target in order to go through and jump into. That something that you can have like a crafted set, or just more like a better enchanting system to get your gear to that level to complete level 1,
Right.
and then it like can drop off from there. You don't, I don't need a crafting system that will take me to 10 plus or anything. Like, I just need a crafting system that will get me through level 1, kind of fill in some of those deficiencies I might have in the build, be able to have better control of making sure that I get like the resist rolls that I need to max everything, something along
Right.
those lines.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be beneficial. Anything that eases that friction
Mm-hmm.
is a good thing. Um, so it doesn't feel so daunting that I kind of, I need to go back and just hope that I'm going to find the right item, good affixes, um, that I can then slot into the build I want to try. And that's the other thing, is I don't know if that build's going to work yet, but I want to try it. And then I can't even give it a good, honest try with mediocre gear. And finding that gear can, in turn, be frustrating. I bring it up because, Joe Piapora in the chat would make mention of like the goal is that items are a starting point and shouldn't be an ending point, but like that, like, hey, we want a system in which items are capable of them. Like, you start here and are able to make them better in some manner. And that to me sounded a lot like a crafting system. It sounded like some way of improving items. And granted, we do have enchanting, but like it seemed beyond that, right? This isn't just fixing one affix, but like, hey, you found a great, level 925 item, but you know what? You could make that better by doing X, Y, and Z with this new system, this new way of looking at items. Um, one of the things, I was bringing up pre-show, in Path of Exile, what they did for a season is they introduced skill trees on items. Now, I'm not saying we need to get that complex, but it did have this kind of cool thing in which your items were providing these different abilities. You could mix and match trees to get your item to where you wanted it. You wanted to grind certain things to make that happen. And it felt like you were investing in the item. Like, first you found a good item base that you wanted to work with, and then you got to kind of make your own. Um, I don't think Diablo needs to go that far. I think that there is a level there that it doesn't need to happen. There are cool ideas out there that I think Diablo should beg, borrow, and steal.
Yeah, I already think that well, this is a whole different thing, and I don't think see this changing with Diablo 4, so it's kind of moot. But I think that this is the problem with Diablo 3, and it's carried over into Diablo 4. Is that I think, and I said this before, that there's too much power on items, that there's not enough power inherent to the character. And I think that creates some of these problems a bit more, especially when it comes to scaling and the way affixes scale up in the math of everything. But um, at the same time, this is the way they're going, right? So I don't see that. I mean, that's a huge sweeping change. If they change that, that would be massive. I would like to see that power be in the skill tree, not as a skill tree on a weapon, right? I'd rather see the skill tree get expanded more, maybe more choice, more points than that. But at the same time, right? Like in that situation in Path, what if you wanted to switch builds? What do you do? If you've invested all this time and all this stuff into one weapon, are you just SOL? Or can you respec it? Can you switch to a different build and have it be relevant?
It's
Because that
been a
just takes.
while since this league,
I'm
but I
pretty sure you
believe
can't.
you
I'm
were
pretty sure you can't
you were
respec it. pretty sure
Yeah,
it's
you were
stuck.
kind of locked in that, so you would need to then find a
Which would
different
just
weapon.
exacerbate the problem you're already having, right? That would just make it worse,
Right.
right? So yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to see what they're gonna do, but I mean, honestly, having skill trees on items wouldn't be the end of the world. I want to see more power on the character. I think that's something I'd like to see. I just don't know that's gonna happen, which is okay.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with you at all. I do think the skill tree itself is underutilized. It feels and they've said they have room for expansion there. Um, I would love to see a lot more options, and yeah, I would like to see a lot more power put back on that, kind of akin to Diablo 2,
Right.
where you had y- y- the game's been figured out, right? We know what builds there are for it, but you had a lot of options. Um, we don't. It feels like we don't have as many for Diablo 4 yet, but we will.
I don't know that that's fair, because I mean, if you think about Diablo 2, yeah, there's a lot of builds, but to play like actual like end game content, which isn't very hard in Diablo 2, there's still only like a handful of really successful builds, right? Um, Diablo 4, I think, like I mean, Sorcerer's got several pretty decent builds. Mind you, it depends on the affixes because it's hard to judge like where the state of the power of the game's at with all the seasonal affixes. Because if we removed vampiric powers right now, what does ball lightning look like? Is it still? I mean, it's still pretty good, but is it? It's not gonna be what it is, right? So that's also interesting too. So it's kind of hard to gauge that, and we don't just have that in Diablo 2. Um, but I think Diablo 4, I mean, look, I mean, the Rogue's got some builds, the Druid's got some builds, Necro's definitely got a few builds, right? Barb's got some builds. They've got some pretty big disparities in their builds, but Hoda's sick, right? Hoda's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I think
Deathblow's awesome.
I think that's honestly like the biggest issue right now is just the disparity in power between a bunch of the builds.
Right.
You know
Right.
what's your top, and then like what's the tier right below it. Like Hoda and Ball Lightning are a pretty far step ahead of anything
Yeah.
else in the tier below.
Right. Yeah, I think, and that's a problem with all ARPGs in general, is that you have these builds that rise to the top. Um, and we know that Hoda and Ball Lightning are going to be adjusted in season 3.
Season 3, yeah.
But everything feels bad if you're not. And it's very easy. You can put on blinders. You don't have to play Hoda. No one's forcing you
Right.
to play Ball Lightning.
Right.
But if you're cued into this podcast, right? If you're listening, you're aware of these things, and that does in some ways affect your perception of your build or of what you might be playing. Um, so yeah, that there is that level of power creep in that regard. Um, but I think there is a lot of hope for what items can be. I think you brought it up before, Nerwards. Like it's not the ideal scenario. Like of putting more power onto the skill tree would be good. That's probably not going to happen. So let's fix the way that we do things.
Right.
Let's fix the system that we do have to make it intuitive, because like it is still fun. Like um, as I was saying, start of show, like there are so many builds that I still want to try, that I still want to play, that I'm not going to have time for. I'm not going to be able to. I'm sorry, Neinball. I'm probably not going to get that necromancer up there because I'm going to get distracted. But I want to. I want like we're going to log off. I'm probably going to try and push it a little bit. Um, instead of doing Abattoir, I guess. So there is a bunch of stuff even without it, but it's like, as we've said for a while, once these other little pieces all lock in, then the game is in a really great state. Like where you want to just do, like, I think we will know Diablo 4 is in its best state when Nerdwords is like, I just need to run one quick nightmare dungeon because there's a chance I could find this item I'm looking for, or I could find a piece to make this item that I'm looking for. If if Diablo could make that happen, we know the game. Like just lock it in. We're never going to play anything else.
So I'm the thermometer. I am.
Yeah, no,
That's fair.
absolutely. Like that is the gauge that
I
we
don't know that
have.
people agree with you on that one.
Where if one of Nightmare Dungeons largest, we say hateritic. I'm going to combine them. It's a portmanteau.
Okay.
Hateritic, Nerwards, is choosing to do them out of just general enjoyment through items. Um, yeah, because like Nightmare Dungeons are quick and easy, digestible content, right? Um, and you're like, oh, I got 5 minutes. I'm gonna run a quick Nightmare Dungeon because I could still find something cool.
If I got
Then
5 minutes,
they've
I'm
nailed
probably
it.
doom scrolling social media and
Shut.
not playing any game.
No, no. The game is in such a good state that that's what you're doing because you want to find something. And I will point out, like with something like Path of Exile, I love like just I got time. I'm going to do 2 maps. Right? I'm going to do 2 quick maps, and I've got a chance to find something amazing that will hook me. And that has happened a lot. Where suddenly you just get a good drop, and then it's 5 hours later, and you're like, oh crap, I've neglected all my responsibilities. I think that's the one thing Diablo 4 needs is you need that to be able to happen everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I know if I had the ability and I could farm all the mats, like running Duriel nonstop would be great because there's always that chance that something great will happen. I could
Well,
get that
everything's 925, so worst case, you've got loot
right.
that's actually meaningful to look through too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So if Nightmare Dungeons provide that, if Helltides provide that, if everywhere provides that, um, then we're just in a good point, and that's where the itemization conversation, I think, hopefully centers around of like, hey, we need items to provide that push, right? They don't all have to be uber uniques, but if they're exciting to find and dig through and have value,
I
that'll
mean,
be great.
finding the God rare feels good in Diablo 4. Like finding a roll is like, whoa, like a 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4 roll is like that's a good feeling. I don't know. I think that so I have 2 points to make with what you said. First thing is that Diablo 4 has already done something that no Diablo game has ever done, and that is get me very interested to play it mid-season.
Mm,
Because Diablo
yeah,
3, I loved it, played it a lot, but I was done in a week or two usually. And if me and my friends were really pushing, it might last longer. But once you stopped, you stopped. You might like come back to like clean up your stash. You might come back to like finish up a thing on a journey you didn't do yet, but you were done, right? Um, Diablo 2, once you hit 99, you probably didn't touch that character anymore, right? At least not for a while, unless you were really farming up for economy. I mean, by that point, you played so much because you farmed 99 that you're probably like ready to sleep for a long time. Um, so Diablo 4 dropping Abattoir of Zir like they've done, dropping the rings like they did. I'm telling you right now, I think it's a small innovation, but it is impactful. Because today, again, I've been playing WoW because I didn't have a lot else to do, and I was already kind of have a ton of sigil powder and all that stuff. And so like today's Tuesday, everyone who plays WoW knows it's Vault Day, right? And it's when you jump in and get your loot and all that. And I don't give a shit. I was playing Abattoir. Right, I was very excited to jump into Abattoir. I was at work thinking about Abattoir. Right, I'm watching videos and stuff, and all this stuff, watching people try to push it. I'm excited to see like what we can do with this, and it's going to be impossibly hard. But it's kind of like when Diablo 4 Season 0 dropped, and just watching people try to fight Lilith. It was a lot of fun. Like, who can take this thing down? I don't know. That's really exciting. But Diablo 4 has already done that, and no other Diablo game has. But the one thing that no Diablo game has done since Diablo 2, love it, hate it, or feel how you feel about Diablo 2 is and I don't know what it is or what the science is. And if they can figure this out, that's where they'll really figure out the sauce. But I don't know what that feeling is that just one more Trav run. Just one more Travancore run, right? One more Mephisto run. You know what? I got 30 minutes. I can squeeze in 10 Mephisto runs real quick. I don't know if it's the loot table. I don't know if it's the loot of the system. I don't know if it's just my nostalgia riddled brain. I don't know if it's just high school me. I haven't felt that in a game since Diablo 2. And that's why I still play Diablo 2, because I still chase that feeling and I still feel it. I still like when a season starts, I love that feeling. And I just wish I just haven't felt it in any other ARPG, even in the Diablo universe or otherwise. And I think that if they can find that, if anyone can, man, that would be incredible. I don't know what that feeling is. I can't put it into words.
I think it's just one of those ones where it's like kind of like getting that defining item, which in modern ARPGs is a build defining item. I guess between Diablo 2 and Diablo 4, the thing that it shares is like, I think you probably would be about as excited, if not more so, in Diablo 4 if you had a Shaco drop. You know, it'd be, you know, it's like one of those ones where it's just like that's it. That's my helm. You know, that's the thing that I am gonna go through and have as part of my, you know, build for like the rest of the season type thing. You know, which you don't, you know, and like in Diablo 3, you had, you know, 50 of those, 100 of those drop before you got like the primal. And so even though the primal
Yeah.
is the one that you're going to be
Your
end
first
up using,
primal ancient best in slot weapon was like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
now this is it. But still, that I still don't know that that's better than a jaw
yeah,
dropping, right? Like a jaw rune drops and oh my god, right? Like burr drops, like there's just that feeling. Even in Diablo 4, like Shaco drops, any of the Uber Uniques drop, like I might be excited, but like they don't work for my build, right? They're not really something I'm going to use in the build. Like Godslayer's Crown is pretty much like best in slot by a long slot, a long shot for Sork. Um, so I don't know, and it could also be that my perspective is just very askew. Um,
I mean, a lot of it
but
also I'm sure has to do with just the, you know, the nostalgia factor.
it has to, right? It has
Yeah,
to.
I don't think that nostalgia is like the proper word for it. Was because the way that you knew that you would feel when like a jaw dropped or a burr or something like that 20 years ago,
Yeah,
and you're still riding off of like that emotion just
still
because,
chasing that, still
yeah,
chasing it. Yeah,
yeah, it's because you knew how impactful that was in the past, that it's still that impactful today, whether or not it actually is, you know, but it still is just like, you know, it's like one of those things that has so much
you know
more
what?
history behind it.
Maybe that's what it is because I think that like so it kind of brings up a bigger problem. Probably the reason why it feels so good is it's useful for every class, but that's because every class is using the same like couple of rune word items because they're just so much overpowered than everything else. So like everyone wants Enigma, right? If you're a melee class, everyone wants a grief. If you know whatever. So when you find those, you find a low rune, right? That's a grief.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe that's what it is, and which points out to a bad itemization because I love there's a video that came out recently from I think it was Llama actually talking about Diablo 2 and rune words, which was really interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I've never felt that feeling in any game since Diablo 2, and I still feel that game in, you know, as old as I am now. Playing Diablo 2, if I get a high rune drop, it's like it's a rush, man. It's awesome.
It's a 4 strength, 4 stam belt, leather belt.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is something to that excitement about finding something. And I think you're right, Nerwards, about like the ubiquitousness of runes and how they um are useful for every class.
Well,
So you
rune
could always have the same experience no matter
runes
what
and rune
class you're
words is a
on.
crafting system.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Yeah,
Um,
true.
and I do agree that like Enigma is I love Diablo 2 and I hate Enigma just because of how forced it feels, right?
Sure.
Um, like if we all right, well, we're gonna get digress too much,
Yeah,
but
we're talking about Diablo 2 for the next hour now, so yeah.
yeah, there
Sorry.
there's a nice middle ground somewhere in there that and learning from your predecessors and learning from your competition of like, hey, what is it that evokes that feeling that we had in Diablo 2 that can work in Diablo 4? And if they can pin that down, like that's going to be exciting. Um, because I think you are right. Uh, Neinball. Like if I found a shakeout tonight, I'd be pretty stoked. Um, the downside is, I can't trade that Shaco for something else, but there's also nothing else I want. I do want a Shaco. I'm walling, but I'm not going to find it. I'm not going to find it. It's okay. It's okay. And you talk about, like meth runs and stuff like that. If I had unlimited mats, I'd just be running dirt. I would just be running dirt, knowing that I had a chance. And we've seen that. We've seen like Duriel runs are super popular because it does. I think it has that tiny bit of Mephisto run and evocation there.
Yeah.
it's just, we're not seeing the results. And I think the item pool itself is still pretty small, right? Super
Mhm.
uniques are pretty small. There's not that many uniques yet. There's still a lot of things that the wider the pool gets, the more excitement we can find as we're getting more of them,
Right.
hopefully. I think it also, and this is a tangent for a different day, but um, there is a lessening of impact in finding good items when you have to find them twice. Like I'm going through and I need to find with my my crone staff, right? Well, I'm just starting out. I need my sacred crone staff. All right, now I need to hope I get an ancestral crone staff. I'm like, it feels more of an obligation. Like I need to get it, as opposed to being excited that I found one.
And then I need to
Uh,
find a well-rolled ancestral crone staff.
right. So when my goal is to just keep finding the exact same thing, I'm not excited that I have found something. It's more that I'm expecting that I will find it, or I'm going to get frustrated that I haven't found it. And yeah, and I think that's also a part of the power on items versus power in character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what we've discovered is there's a lot of complexities to this issue when
Right.
it comes to itemization. Uh, and I'm glad I'm not involved in the conversation because I don't think what we've done, as we frequently tend to do, is we've admired the problem. We've really admired the heck out of it. We've pointed out a lot of its flaws. We've solved nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
No, we're useless for sure.
yeah, pretty much. This is why I'm glad Macro was involved in these conversations
For
because he probably
sure.
had a
Yeah.
spreadsheet, and Neinball can't tell us anything, but I bet he had a PowerPoint presentation. I feel it in my bones that he brought it up. He brought up some numbers. He pointed to some things, and it was great, and everybody clapped.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Makes
see?
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Totally,
knew it.
totally,
I knew it.
totally wasn't just, me stuffing, lunch down my face on my lunch break at work or anything like that. Totally.
Don't ruin the mystique for people who aren't in the know. Okay. So we've got some itemization, but more importantly, we have 6 more weeks. We get Abattoir right now. We get Midwinter in a week,
Yep.
right? So
Week
December
from today.
12th.
Yeah.
Week from today. Yep.
So we've got a lot of cool new things. And even if you don't want to
Yeah.
dig into the Abattoir, you can go and earn a bunch of fancy new cosmetics next week and carry you into the holiday. Um, any last thoughts, gentlemen, as we're starting to meander, if we didn't already, as I brought up St. Nicholas and pickle ornaments?
I mean, just really excited for where the game's at right now. I think that it continues to get better and improve, and it seems like the development team is definitely on the right tracks. And again, best campfire chat we've had so far. They've all been really good, but I think this was super engaging, really informative, and really felt connected to the community in a way that I'm not sure the other ones did as much. Not to say they were disconnected, but this one just felt a little more connected. Plus, it was a year from they've now been doing them a year, which is really cool. No, very, very excited to get, to see where the game continues to evolve and grow. And I'm excited for season 3 for sure. I'm excited for the midwinter event and all the cool little Christmassy stuff. Very excited for the itemization changes in season 4. Um, yeah, super happy about it. Just ready to go play Abattoir.
Well, we
Uh,
won't take up much more of your time.
I just continue to be enamored with everything that they've been going through and putting into the game. I like the direction that everything's going, and I definitely have had my faith renewed in the development team with everything involving like season 2 and beyond that they've shown and they've talked about. They really want to make this the best game that it can be, and I think every week forward they're going through and doing it. And also just to go through and get it in on the show, they're buffing the pestilence set in Diablo 3 for the first
Yep.
time in like forever, god knows how long. I'm excited for that PTR. And go watch Godzilla -1, best movie of the year. Please do it.
Actually, to spin on that too, they're also buffing Delcer's Magnum Opus for the first time in a long time for the wizard, but they're also buffing towels at the same time. They're buffing both, so we're just gonna probably keep using towels. But really excited about the season 30 PTR just started for Diablo 3. I'm actually really excited for season 30 again because Altar of Rights is back. Not as powerful. It's been nerfed a little bit, but it's still there. I'm gonna play Diablo 3 season 30 for at least a weekend, if not a little longer. So I'm excited about that too. But yeah, again, echo everything Nine said. Diablo 4 is in the best place it's been so far, and it looks like it's just gonna keep getting better. So, hooray!
Um, yeah, well, it's a good place to be in. Uh, Next time on the Diablo podcast, we're going to be joined by Greg Miller of Kind of Funny Games and like a billion other podcasts, to the point where I'm concerned that by inviting him on, he may actually take over as host. Um, and none of you are going to be.
Duriel already took over as co-host.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But Greg Miller, and then due to the time of the podcast, we're also bringing back Jen from Windows Central, who's going to hang out and chat a little Diablo. So tune in when that hits. We're recording on the 20th. So outside of that, the only thing left to do is close it out as we always do with a moo, moo, moo.
Moo moo moo.
Moo 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 moo.
Moo, moo.